The reality of football is that it is incredibly difficult to become a professional. Studies show that less than 0.5% of youth team players will actually become professional. Usually, many players with aspirations of going pro look to get signed by a professional academy to receive formal training. But there are no guarantees, not even for some of the brightest prospects. But what if I told you that there was a footballer who not only had no formal training at youth level, but worked as a fish seller up until he turned professional at the age of 23. He would go on to become a 3-time Europa League champion and win over half a century of caps for his country. I am talking about Carlos Bacca, who rose from nothing to become one of the best strikers in the world. Growing up in the coastal town of Puerto Colombia, life was very difficult. His family lived in immense poverty and his father barely made it by as a fisherman. But despite this, Bacca inherited a strong work ethic and an undying love of football. According to his mother, since he was 3, Bacca only wanted to play with the ball. We bought him cars, but he didn't want them. He only wanted the ball. His first job was working as a fish salesman, selling the fish each day that his father caught. He later got a job working as a bus driver's assistant. The bus company that employed him soon started their own football team, and Bacca would be their star player. His goals fired his team to a local championship, and in response, his bosses promoted him to bus schedule controller. However, things would take a turn for the worst when he was fired from his day job the following season due to him missing a decisive penalty kick in a crucial game. Fortunately, Bacca's performances hadn't entirely gone unnoticed. His girlfriend at the time had an uncle who knew a coach at Barranquilla FC, the reserve team of Colombian giants Atletico Jr., who competed in the second tier of Colombian football. He was able to get a trial and impressed so much that he was signed by Atletico Jr. After a successful loan move to Barranquilla, he was shipped out on loan to Minor Bien in the Venezuelan second tier. The Colombian led the club to a second-place finish in the league, scoring 12 goals in 29 games. He then rejoined Barranquilla for a second time on loan, where he was the league's top goal scorer with 14 goals in 19 games. His good form saw him earn a starting place at Atletico Jr. and make his professional debut at the age of 23. His debut season would start off with a bang, becoming the top scorer in the 2009 Copa Colombia, with 11 goals in 12 games. In his next 2 seasons, he would win back-to-back Categoria Primera A titles, finishing both seasons as the league's top goal scorer. He would also get a call-up to the Colombia national team, where he would score on his debut in a 1-1 draw against Bolivia. His composure in the penalty area saw various European clubs keep an eye on him, including the likes of Kievo and Lokomotiv Moscow, but he signed for Club Bruges for 1.5 million euros on a 3-year deal. Bacca had shown his true promise and now had the opportunity to make a name for himself in Europe. He made his debut halfway through the season in January. However, Bacca found his game time extremely limited as the season went on. But when Club Bruges was battling for a spot in Europe in the final fixtures of their campaign, their coaching staff turned to the Colombian. In a must-win match against Kortrijk, the Colombian popped up with a right-footed strike to put them 2-0 up, and then scored what would be the game-deciding goal in a 3-2 victory. His clutch performance saw the club go on to the Europa League. This seemed like a turning point for Bacca. However, no one would have anticipated the season that he would have next. In the 2012-13 summer transfer window, Joseph Akpala departed the club, and new manager Georges Likens became impressed by the Colombian's performances. The renewed focus on the striker saw Bacca flourish, and his place in the team was effectively guaranteed every week. Quick, powerful, aggressive, great in the air, and a natural finisher, Bacca was essentially the perfect poacher. It was the Colombian's movement, speed, technique, ability to lead a line, and dribbling skills that allowed him to beat opponents or create space for himself and his teammates. In addition, his frequent use of tricks and feints saw him score some spectacular goals, and his unpredictability caused him to be a nightmare for defenses. Bacca essentially tore the league to shreds, scoring a whopping 28 goals as well as chipping in with 13 assists in 44 games. He finished as the league's top goal scorer and was the Belgian Pro League Player of the Year. The Colombian's form caught the eye of Spanish side Sevilla, who signed him for 7 million euros. It took a bit of time for him to settle in, but once he got going, he wouldn't stop. He would finish the season with 14 goals and 9 assists in 35 league games, including a run where he made 10 goal contributions from November until January. He would even score a game-winning brace against Real Madrid. However, the real transformation would come when Spanish manager Mikel was sacked and replaced by Unai Emery. During his time under Emery, Bacca modified his playing style, improving his mentality, work rate, and the defensive aspect of his game. Additionally, he was often deployed in deeper areas of the pitch, which allowed him to drop into the midfield, to be more involved in build-up play, and link up with his teammates. This new role also gave him more opportunities to find spaces from deeper positions, losing his markers and making attacking runs into the area. This enabled him to maintain his consistent goal-scoring record, despite being played further back from goal. Under Emery, Sevilla would finish top of their Europa League group by a massive 13 points. Bacca would contribute 4 goals and 3 assists in the Europa League as Sevilla overcame Maribor, Real Betis, Porto, Valencia, and Benfica to be crowned as Europa League champions. Spanish publication Marca voted the Colombian as the best signing of the season. However, Bacca would hit another level as the 2014-15 campaign would arguably be his best ever season. While losing the UEFA Super Cup final wasn't a good start, Sevilla would finish 5th in La Liga on 76 points, with the Colombian getting 20 goals and 7 assists in 37 league games, finishing as the league's 5th highest goal scorer. While this was fantastic, Bacca was a monster in Europe, firmly establishing Sevilla as the king of the Europa League. While the South American would only score 1 goal in the group stage, as Sevilla would finish top of their group once again, Bacca would be superhuman in the knockouts. Sevilla essentially steamrolled their way to the final, only losing 1 game in the competition, in large part thanks to the Colombian. In the intermediate stage, the Colombian scored the first goal in a 3-2 victory over Borussia Mönchengladbach in the second leg to seal their spot in the quarterfinals. They breezed past Villarreal in the round of 16, where Bacca assisted the opening goal of the second leg. In the quarterfinals, Bacca would prove clutch once again, coming off the bench to score the equalizing goal against Zenit St. Petersburg in the first leg. In the second leg, Bacca would score yet again, this time from a penalty to give Sevilla a 1-0 lead. What makes this goal so significant is that if the Colombian would have missed, then Zenit would have won the match 2-1, meaning that it would be 3-3 on aggregate, with Zenit progressing due to them scoring more away goals. In the semifinals, Bacca would assist the opening goal against Fiorentina, whom they would go on to demolish 5-0 on aggregate. And in the final, with Ukrainian side FC Dnipro up 1-0, Bacca would assist the equalizing goal before scoring the goal to put Sevilla 2-1 up. And with Dnipro equalizing soon after halftime, Bacca would take the game by the scruff of the neck and score the game-winning goal. He was the joint second highest goal scorer with 7, was included in the Europa League squad of the season, and, in my opinion, should have been the player of the tournament. However, as prestigious and ambitious as Sevilla are, once one of Italy's giants came calling, it was close to impossible to turn down. So in July of 2015, AC Milan announced the signing of Bacca after activating his €30 million buyout clause. Il Rossoneri were not the powerhouses they once were. With the loss of key players from their golden era, the heart and spine had essentially been ripped out of the team. So Milan were left with a bare-bones squad, who underperformed massively, resulting in a banter era for the North Italian side. Many of their big-name players such as Balotelli, Honda, Matri, and Boateng massively disappointed, so the Colombian was seen as the man to propel them to silverware. Thankfully, the $30 million they paid for the striker would look like a bargain, as Bacca was electric in his first season for the Red and Blacks. With the team built around him, Bacca's expert positional sense, vast array of finishes, and unmatched confidence in front of goal made him a nightmare for defenses. He would end the season with 20 goals in 43 games, operating in a more advanced and offensive role as a lone center forward under Italian head coach Christian Brocchi. In the following season, however, Brocchi was sacked and replaced by Vincenzo Montella. The Colombian at times had a difficult relationship with the Italian due to his low defensive contribution and limited movement off the ball outside the box. Although Bacca was praised in the media for his goal-scoring record, ability to make attacking runs, and goals per minute ratio, Bacca was mostly criticized for acting as a pure poacher, mainly operating in the center of the penalty area, not contributing to build-up play, and not attempting to create chances for himself. This, in turn, led to him being isolated from his team's overall play when Milan struggled to create chances. His constant offside calls, as well as his limited work rate off the ball, was detrimental to the team and slashed the team's attacking output. Despite winning the Supercoppa Italiana and generally being one of AC Milan's best players in a dark period in their history, he was outcasted and sent out on loan to Villarreal the following season. He would have an impressive season with the Yellow Submarine, getting 25 goal contributions in all competitions and being signed on a permanent deal not long after. While he wasn't as prolific in the following seasons, he would prove to be a useful rotation option. In the 2020-21 season, he would be reunited with Unai Emery and become a key player in Villarreal's Europa League triumph, going unbeaten the entire tournament and thrashing the likes of Arsenal and Manchester United on the way. After winning his third Europa League title, he moved to Granada and then made a romantic return to Atletico Junior, where he still plays, even winning another league title in 2023. The story of Carlos Bacca is truly incredible. From a fish seller with no hope of turning professional to becoming a 3-time Europa League champion and one of the deadliest forwards in the world in his prime. It shows us that there is no telling how far you can go if you never forget where you came from, never forget the values you learn along the way, and never stop believing in your dreams.